Hello friends, this is tutorial number 60 in this Pascal Programming language tutorials. In this tutorial we will create one exercise and we will have a sphere and it will have of course its radius, and of course it will have a volume and a surface. But the one thing we will need to input a radius of the sphere, and we need to calculate volume and the surface. We will have a couple of spheres, and we want to display all volumes and volume and surface for each sphere. And let's create. We will need just a second. Let's start type, and we will have sphere, and it will be a record. Now we need a field. We will have, first thing that we will have is a radius, which will be real. We will have volume. Each field will be real, and also we will have surface. Okay, we have three fields. This is the end of our record. And now we will need a couple of variables, and also we need a p number, and let's create constant which will be p equals to 3.14. This will be the const. It will be 3.14 with two decimals. And now we will need variables. We will have variable. We will have a couple of spheres, but we will just need one variable s, or it can be s1. It will be s1, which will be sphere. And we need another variables. We want to display. We will have a couple of spheres, but we want to display, for example, a sphere with minimum volume and the surface. And we will need variable minimum, which will be real. And of course it will be variable. And we will need variable x, which will be integer, and we can have a variable index. We will use it later, which will also be an integer. Okay, we will see if we need a couple more variables. We will add them, and of course we will need one. We will have a couple of spheres, 5 of them. 5 should be enough. And let's create array, but array will be boxes. Okay, we have a sphere and two spheres. Our array will be boxes. It will be array. It will have 5 elements of sphere. That should be good. And now what we need to do, we need to create. We will not create we want to create, but I will not create it. Okay, we will have a begin and end of this application, but I will not create sphere in this. I want to do it in the procedure. I will create a procedure. It will be create sphere, and we'll have variable s, which will be sphere. It's a local variable. And let's create begin and end of this procedure. And we have s, which is sphere, and let's write with s do, and again we will need begin and end. And let's create our sphere. We need to write, but we will need for loop. For we have variable x equals 1 to 5 do, and again we need begin and end of this for loop. First we will write, I will write x. For example, we will input the radius of the sphere, but how many times? I want to write first of 5, second of 5, and we will write x, and I need a slash, and I need a number 5, but we will just use write. We will continue writing in the same line. Now we will write line. We will give a little space. Enter. And we will have sphere. And we want to our sphere will have numbers, sphere 1, sphere 2, and now we have a sphere, and we will write variable x. It will start from 1 to 5, and we will write radius as a text. And now we will need to read line. We will just write a radius, because we have this s with s do. We don't need to write s. We will just read line radius of the sphere. Now we have, when we input, we have our radius, but volume and surface we need to calculate. We will write volume will be equals, and we need to calculate the volume of the sphere. We need to use a formula. Formula is 4 divided with 3 multiplied with p. In this case we have a constant p, which is 3.14, and we need to multiply 3 times with a radius. This is the formula to calculate the volume of the sphere. Okay, now we will have our volume, and now what we need to do, I use div here because 4 and 3 are integers. And now what I need to do, we need to calculate the surface. Equals, and we have a formula for the, we will use a formula for the surface. It will be 4 multiplied with p and multiply with radius and once more with radius. And now it's good. We have our sphere, and we have a volume. We have all of these fields. But now what we need to do, we will need to define. We will have our array of we define array of boxes where we will have our 5 spheres. We need to define this array boxes of element x equals to s. Pretty much simple. And the first element will be this sphere that we created, but for loop will runs again, and we will have 5 spheres in our array. And this is pretty much good. And we also want now, when we entering all of the, when we creating all of these 5 spheres, we also want to get a volume and the surface of all spheres. And let's create it, but we can do it. First we want to create them all, and after that we want all of these 5 spheres to be displayed with their volume and the surface. We can do this in this for loop. We will create another for loop for that. X will be equals, but we will do it all in this procedure. 1 to 5 do, and we will need begin and end. And now what we need to write. First we need to write sphere, and we need a number of sphere which will start from 1, and we will need our x, variable x, but we can just write it. Okay, we can type 2 dots, and it will be just right. It will not be right line. And we will write again. We will type little space. We will have a volume as a text. and we will need a volume, but it will be we have our arrays of boxes. It will be boxes of element x dot volume, because we will pass through this array of spheres, which we call them boxes. We will pass through this array, and we want all of these volumes and surface to be displayed, all of the spheres, which with all of their volume and surface. And boxes, we will display a volume, but it is a real number. We need 2.4, and we will write with 5 decimals. And we will do the same thing, but now we can use right line. Okay, I don't know. We can use 3. We will see if it will be good. And we just want to give a little space, because it will all of this will be written in the one line. And now we will need write a surface. Okay, comma, and now we need boxes, our array of boxes of element x dot surface, and again we will have 2.4, 2.5. Okay, we will not write the radius, and our spheres will be displayed, and we will just let this right line, we will just have a little space, nothing else, and that should be fine. And what we can do here, we can try to see if it's gonna work, but first we need to write something in the we have just here, we just created one variable of S1, which is a sphere, and we don't need more of them. We will just use procedure to create sphere, and it will create 5 of them, of course. And let's call this procedure. First we will see if everything will work fine. Create sphere, and we have our S1. This is the only one variable or sphere that we created, but we don't need more. It will be enough. And let's we have a read line. We just have one line, 2 lines of code, because of this ring inside the begin, and then we did all of this complete application in the procedure. We will need 2 more procedures, but I just want to see if this will work properly, and we will see. I compiled. We don't have any error. We will see how it will gonna work. Enter sphere 1 radius, which is perfect, and let's enter. It will be 6.3. It is a real number. Enter sphere 2 radius. This looks good. 3.92. Enter sphere 3 radius. 2.42. Sphere 4 will be 3.50, and sphere 5, it will be number 4. We have sphere 1. Okay, we have a volume and we have a surface, okay, which is good. But just a second, I just want to be okay. These spheres doesn't require space. I think I don't need this space. But I could use just a second where I can use a space. Maybe I can use it here. Or I can put it between these four loops, we will see. Okay, let's run it now, but first I will clear. Okay, sphere 1, okay. 8, it will be 8 and it will be 0.42. Here 305. 2.31, 2.55, and okay, it will be 6.9. Okay, I think okay, this is good. What we will gonna do, I don't need, it's pretty much it. It's not good with this one. We can create just between these four loops, we will just create one space and it should be enough. Okay, we will test it later again. I will clear this and we will just continue with our application. Now what we want to do, we want to find a box with, or sphere with minimum volume. And let's create procedure for that. Procedure minimum volume. Okay, it will be the name of the procedure. And I hope that you saw one difference. We just created one variable, which is a sphere S1, but we created a five spheres, which is good, and we don't need this. S1 should be enough. We will use it to find a sphere with minimum volume and a sphere with a minimum surface. And probably it will be the same sphere, but we want to create two procedures. It will be variable S, which will be sphere, and let's create a begin and end of this procedure, and we will write our variable is S with S do, and we need begin and end, and let's write. First we have, I think that we already created our variable minimum, which is real, and we have a variable index, which is an integer, and we will use them now. First let's define the minimum equals to 0, and we can also define index will be okay. By default Turbo Pascal will define it as 0, but for me it is better to write. And now we need to pass through this array of boxes. Let's, of course, inside are the spheres. For we will use again variable x equals to 1 to 5, and we did a do, we forgot do, And now let's create begin and end of this for loop. And let's create condition if two opening brackets, minimum equals to 0, or minimum is greater of now it will be greater of we have array, we already create our array of boxes of element x dot volume, and we need now two closing brackets, and we'll write then, and let's write we need begin and end of this control statement. And let's define the minimum. Minimum will be equals to boxes of element x dot volume, and we will define our S sphere which has the minimum volume. S will be equals to boxes of element x, and now we define which one is the box with minimum volume, but we also want to know the number of this sphere. Okay, and I forgot semicolon here. Okay, but also inside this for loop I will create another control statement if now we want to define our index. We want to know which is that box with the minimum volume, and we will write if we don't need a bracket now, if a minimum equals to boxes of element x dot volume, or it can be S dot volume. But it is better. No, it is a better boxes of element x dot volume. Then and we will write we need again begin and end of this control statement. We will just write if this condition is true, we will just write index equals to x. Okay, because we will passing through this array of spheres. We have 5 of them, and when this we already defined a minimum, and if when minimum is equals to okay, it may be first element, second element, third element. For example, if it is a second element, minimum is find, and also index will be defined, and which is good. Now we finish with this for loop. Okay, but it's not good. For loop needs to be okay. This is end of control statement, and this is okay. This is the end of okay. It's good. Here finish ends the for loop. Now we just need to write this. Write a line, and we can use one space here. And also now we can write minimum volume and in the next line we will write which sphere is that. We will write sphere, and we will use index okay, we will write we will use write. It will be written in the same line, and now we will use a write line, and we will write a volume again, but we will write just a volume. We will write, we already defined this sphere. It will be s dot volume, because we finished with the for loop, and we will write 2.4, 2.5, and this should be, I think this should be good. And now we need another procedure to find the box with the minimum surface. It will be real similar, and to prevent now we will not writing the code again. It will be better, we will just copy this complete procedure. We will paste it here, and now what can we, this is completely the same. Now what can we do? We can just change the values. Okay, it will not be minimum volume, it will be minimum surface. Okay, we have a minimum, we have an index, and here instead of volume we will have a surface. Here also we will change to surface. Here again will be surface, and here text will be minimum surface. Okay, this will be the same, and here we will change to surface, and here we will change to surface, and that should be good. And what we need to do, we will just call this procedures. It will be here. We have first we'll create sphere, which is good, and I will copy this 2 times, minimum surface, but here instead of minimum surface I will change to minimum volume. It will be we will call our procedure, and we will use it for our sphere S1. This should be good. That means that we will redefine, but it doesn't matter. We will get everything that we need. And now let's clear this, and let's first maybe we have some error. Okay, and where is the error? Here we don't have comma, but I suppose now we will have again, because of course, because we use copy and paste to these procedures. And now if I compile, I will not have any more error. Okay, we already clean. Now let me test to see if it will gonna work properly. Okay, first will be first sphere radius 7.6. Second, okay, I don't have a space. Second one will be 3.2. Third one will be 2.8. Fourth one will be 0.3. And fifth one will be okay, it can be 5. And as you can see, we have our sphere. Let me see. Okay, it is everything is with 5 decimals. We have volume and the surface of all of these spheres. And let me see, of course, number 4. And as you can see, minimum volume, it has sphere 4. Okay, I just need 2 dots here. Let me, but it works properly. But I don't, just let me check. Just a second. Okay, this right line. Okay, it's good. Okay, let me see this. Okay, here I will need 2 dots here, and in another procedure I will need again 2 dots. But this works. This works good, and I think we don't need to change anything. Let me try again. Okay, first sphere will be 2.5, second sphere will be 3.5, third one will be 0.2, sphere 4 will be 6.1, and fifth one will be 6.7. And let me see. Okay, we have volume of all of these spheres. We have 5 spheres, each one has its volume. Okay, as you can see, number 3 is the minimum, and this means of course, as you can see, a sphere 3 has a minimum volume and minimum surface, which is completely true. And this means that this application, of course, I don't know, we can try again. Okay, I didn't clear. Okay, it will be, let's try with these numbers, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 1. As you can see, of course, number 5, now it's a number 5 which has minimum surface, and this means this works properly. Of course, we could find a maximum, but I'm pretty much sure that you already know how to find maximum box with sphere with maximum volume and the surface. Okay, you can practice this and extend this application. Okay, as your homework, you can extend this and find the maximum. But as you can see here in our main begin and end, we just have 4 lines of code. Okay, this read line to prevent debugging, and we just have these 3 lines of code. We write this entire application. We resolved with our procedures, and we just in our main we called these procedures to resolve entire problem. I'm pretty much sure that you like this exercise, and okay, I really hope that you like this video. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram. You have a link in the description, and I will see you in the next tutorial.